In today's Adobe Illustrator tutorial, we're going to be creating our very own ribbon design. And despite its simplicity, we'll be covering some advanced techniques using the Pathfinder tool and how to manipulate strokes. If you're new to the channel, my name is Richard Carpenter, a web designer and illustrator. And if you like the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you get notified of any future videos. So without further ado, let's jump right into Illustrator and get started. Okay, so start off in a new document. The document size I'm using is 1920 by 1080 pixels, and then you want to head straight for the ellipse tool. Once you've selected the ellipse tool, click anywhere within the artboard, and then you want to create an ellipse around 545 pixels by 545 pixels, and then just horizontally and vertically center that within the artboard. While the ellipse is still selected, change the stroke weight to around 80 points, and then holding the Alt key and the Shift key, drag a duplicate copy of the ellipse, which we can use later on, and then we can just hide that within the layers window for now. Remove the solid fill colour from the ellipse and then change the stroke colour to something a little bit more brighter, and then go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in place. While the duplicated copy of the ellipse is still selected, change the stroke colour again to something a little bit different, and then we just want to drag the duplicated ellipse layer underneath the original. Next, holding the Shift and Alt key, we just want to resize the ellipse so the radius of the ellipse sits inside of the original ellipse, and then we can just select both ellipses and go to Object, Expand, make sure the fill and stroke options are ticked, and then press OK, and then essentially we should end up with two individual shapes. Select the line segment tool and then create two lines, again with an 80 point stroke, and you want to create the lines at a 45-degree angle, and then just individually, horizontally and vertically center each one. Send both lines to the back by making a selection around both of them, right clicking and go to Arrange Center Back. And with these two lines, not only will they serve as guides for when we create the ribbon shape, but they will also double up as a pencil and pen for the ribbon design. Select the rectangle tool and draw out a simple square. Flip the stroke over to a solid fill, and then with the square selected, go to Object, Path, Offset Path. You want to offset the path by around 40 pixels and then press OK. While the offset version of the square is still selected, you just want to give that a different colour. Select both squares and then rotate it 90 degrees, and then we just want to position the two squares neatly within the space on the side. And just to make it easy to see, I'll change the bottom square to something different. And then we want to select both squares, hold down the Alt key and Shift key, and just drag a duplicate to the opposite side. And we can zoom all the way in just to make sure that it fits right within that space. Select the two top squares and go to Object, Compound Path, Make, and then repeat that for the bottom two squares. Next we want to select the top square compound path, hold down the Shift key and then select the top ellipse shape, and then from within the Pathfinder tool, if you don't see the Pathfinder you can go to Window, Pathfinder, or you can use the shortcut Shift Control F9, and you want to select the minus front option. Next, select the remaining two squares, hold down the Shift key and select the bottom ellipse, and then again within the Pathfinder tool you want to select the crop option. Once you've done the crop option, select the direct selection tool and just drag a selection around the empty space because it will leave some empty shapes. Once one of the empty shapes is selected, go to Select, Same, Fill and Stroke, and what that'll do is it'll just select all the empty shapes, and then we click the delete key on the keyboard just to remove those. And for now we'll also hide our 2 line paths. Once you've hidden the 2 lined layers, this is what we're left with, which is the start of our ribbon design. Start off by selecting all 4 shapes, change the solid fill colour to a white, and give it a black stroke of about 10 points. And while it's still selected, within the stroke panel, we want to change the cap to a round cap and the corner to a round join. If you don't see the stroke panel, go to Window and select Stroke, or use the Ctrl F10 keyboard shortcut. Zoom into the artwork and then select the pen tool, and then simply join up the corners of the ribbon. Select both shapes and then select the Control square bracket to send it behind, and then go to Object, Group. Then hold down the Alt key and Shift key to make a duplicate, then go to Object, Transform, Reflect. Reflect it along the vertical axis and position on the opposite side. Select both shape groups and then change the solid fill from a white to a black, leaving the 10-point stroke as it is. With the basic shape of our ribbon complete, we now need to grab our original ellipse which we hid earlier, and what you want to do is you want to hold the Alt key and drag a duplicate of the ellipse and then just re-hide the original one. Right click and go to Arrange, Bring to Front, and we want to change the stroke down to about 4 points. Once you've changed the stroke, remove the solid fill, and then we want to horizontally and vertically centre the ellipse within the artboard. As everything was horizontally and vertically centred from the start, the ellipse should fall directly in between the top and bottom parts of the shapes, which means what we can do is select the ellipse and go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and we want to offset it by -20 pixels. Reselect the original ellipse and go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and then change it to 20 pixels. So what you should end up with is 3 different size ellipses. Next, select the rectangle tool and create a square. Make sure it's got a solid fill and no stroke, and then we want to rotate it 90 degrees. Horizontally and vertically centre the square within the artboard, and then we just want to move it out to the left. And if we press Ctrl Y on the keyboard, we can see the lined version, and we want to make sure that the edge of the square is in line with the angles where we cropped it earlier. Once you've done the first one, hold down the Alt key, then hold down the Shift key and drag a duplicate and repeat it for the opposite side. Press Ctrl Y again and then select both squares and go to Object, Group. So we can see what we're doing. We're going to select the 3 ellipses and change the stroke colour to something a bit more vibrant, and we're also going to group these together by going to Object, Group. Once you've grouped the ellipses, select the ellipse group, hold down the Shift key and then select the black squares. Zoom in, press Shift M on the keyboard for the shape builder tool, and then what we want to do is hold down the Alt key and click the 3 stroke paths. And what this will do is it will just remove them from within the square area. Once you've done one side, move to the opposite side and repeat the same process. Once you remove the strokes, select the squares and then you can hit the delete key and remove those because they're no longer needed. Next, select the rectangle tool again and create a square. Rotate the square 90 degrees and then horizontally and vertically centre the square within the artboard. Once centred, start moving it up and then hold down the Shift key so it snaps into its vertical position, and then you want to move the square up so the bottom corner sits within the centre of the ribbon shape. Then from there we can use the top anchor point along with the Shift key to make it as big as we need to. Once the squares overlap in all 3 of the lines, hold down the Alt key and drag a duplicate and position in the same place on the bottom side. Now select both squares along with the 3 ellipses. Zoom in and then press Shift M on the keyboard for the shape builder tool. Hold down the Alt key and then select each one of the ellipse paths, repeating what we did on the sides. Once you're done, select the 2 squares, and again we can remove those because they're no longer needed. We can now select what's left of our 3 ellipse shapes and then go to Object and Group, and then we want to regroup each side so they're together, so selecting each path and just grouping those together. Once you've grouped them together, select the top left group, and then from within the stroke panel all the way at the bottom there is a profile drop down box. If you select that and then you want to select the width profile 4, if for whatever reason one or multiple paths are the opposite way, double click the group to enter isolation mode, select the offending path and then select the flip along icon from within the stroke panel, and then we want to repeat that for each one of the corners. Now we can select all 4 groups and then just go to Object, Group to group them all together, and then while they're all selected, change the orange stroke or whatever colour you've chosen for yours and change it to the black colour. And we can also increase the stroke weight just to make it stand out that little bit more. We now need to repeat that whole process again now for the smaller parts of the ribbon. So unhide your ellipse which we hid at the start, hold down the Alt key and drag a duplicate to one side, and then just rehide the ellipse. Right click, arrange, bring to front, remove the solid fill colour and change the 80 point stroke to around 4 pixels, and then horizontally and vertically centre the ellipse within the artboard. Now because these parts of the ribbon are slightly set inwards, what we can do is go to Object, Path, Offset Path, and we just want to start off with -10 points. Press OK, and then remove the original ellipse. And then we're going to create more ellipses 10 points apart or 10 pixels apart until we get from one end to the other. So selecting the first ellipse, Object, Path, Offset Path, offset the path by 10 pixels, and then just keep repeating it until you get all the way to the opposite side. Once all the ellipses are created, select each one individually and then go to Object, Group, and then select the rectangle tool and create a square. Flip the stroke over to a solid fill, rotate it 90 degrees and then horizontally and vertically centre the square within the artboard. Next, press Ctrl Y on the keyboard for outline mode, and we want to select our square. Hold down the Shift key as you're moving to snap it into its vertical position, and then we want to line up the square with the top part of the inner ribbon. It doesn't have to be mega precise. Once you've done the first one, duplicate the square and then repeat it for the bottom part. Press Ctrl Y again to come out of outline mode, and we'll just double check that that lines up. Select both squares along with the ellipse group. Shift M on the keyboard for the shape builder tool, and then we want to press the Alt key and simply select and remove each path from the ellipse group. Once you've done the top part, repeat on the bottom part. Once all paths have been removed, simply select the 2 squares and just remove them. I know there's some small paths which overlap into the big ribbon, but we'll sort that out at the end once we've trimmed the middle part of the ellipses. So starting with the rectangle tool again, create another square, again change the stroke to a solid fill, rotate it 90 degrees, horizontally and vertically centre the square within the artboard, and then just move it to the left or the right depending on which one you want to do first, and you want to position it so there's about 20 or 30 pixel gap in between the square and the top and bottom ribbon, and then we just want to move that over to the other side. Once you're happy with the positioning, select both squares along with the ellipse group, Shift M on the keyboard and then repeat the same process again, selecting each path with the Alt key, simply removing each path from the selection. Once you've removed all the paths, you can simply remove the squares. Reselect what's left of the ellipses. Control square bracket just to send those behind, and what that'll do is that'll just hide it from protruding onto the top and bottom parts of the ribbon. Now reselect the ellipse group from within the stroke panel, go down to the profile section and select the width profile 4. The left hand side they all seem to be pointing the right way, but on the right hand side looks like we need to flip it. So if we double click on the group for isolation mode, select the right side and then just select the flip along icon from within the stroke panel, and that'll just flip it the right way around. Once all the directions have been corrected, what we can do is increase the stroke weight just to make those bottom points stand out a bit more. And that's pretty much it for the ribbon shape. We can now start adding some of the other details associated with our ribbon design. And what we'll start with is the pen and pencil, which sit or form the cross inside of our ribbon design. So if we unhide our 2 strokes which we created at the start of the tutorial, make a selection around everything, hold down the shift key and just rotate that 90 degrees. And what that does is it just enables us to work on the pen and pencil design at a more easier angle. So starting with the first vertical path, what we want to do is go to Object, Expand, make sure the fill and stroke options are selected, then press OK. Flip the solid fill from a solid fill to a stroke, and then we want to change the weight to around 10 points. Adjust the height so there's not that much protruding out the top and the bottom. And then at the base of the shape, we want to start drafting out the end of our pen. So I'm going to start off first with a small rectangle, and then I'm going to select the pen tool and then just start drawing out the nib of our pen. And I think I'm just going to create the first half and then duplicate the second half, and then join in the bottom 2 anchor points up using the Ctrl J shortcut, and then just the look of the pen to your liking. Once you finish the bottom part of the pen, select the direct selection tool using the shortcut key A, select the 2 anchor points at the top, and then using the corner radius handles just completely round off the top part of the pen. And then using the shift key and the arrow keys, we just want to move the top part up about 20 or 30 pixels. Then using the add anchor point tool, which is the plus key on the keyboard as a shortcut, add 2 anchor points on the base of the pen. Then using the direct selection tool, select both points and then move them down to the center of the ribbon shape. And then we just want to individually select each one and just move it out either side about 4 or 5 pixels. Once you're happy with the pen, select all these shapes and go to Object Group, right click and go to Arrange Center Back, go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Place. Again, right click, arrange center back, and then we just want to rotate, holding the shift key, 90 degrees, and then we can just vertically and horizontally center the duplicated version. Finally, select the second horizontal line, and then we can just remove that from the artwork altogether. And then we can just adjust our pen so it resembles something like the first one we done. And we can also modify our pen shape to look more like a pencil by just removing a few elements. Once you're happy with your pen and pencil design, make a selection around everything and then rotate it anti-clockwise back to the way it was. Once you've rotated the artwork back to its original position, there's just a few areas which need our attention where the pen sits underneath the whole of the ribbon design. The first thing we want to do is double select one of the pen or pencil shapes and select the body, give it a solid fill colour of white, and then do the same for the other one, and then select both pen shapes. Use the Control close square bracket shortcut just to bring it in front of the ribbon folds. Next, select the ellipse tool and then just drag out an ellipse, remove the stroke and then change the solid fill to black. Horizontally and vertically centre the ellipse to the ribbon shape, and then right click and go to Arrange Centre Back. With the ellipse still selected, go to Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste in Place. Hold down the Shift and Alt key and then just resize the ellipse down so it sits roughly inside of the inside of the ribbon, and then repeat that same process again. Make sure the ellipse is selected, Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Place, and then just make that about 1 or 2 pixels smaller, and then change the solid fill colour to a white. Next, reselect the original ellipse that we created. Hold down the Alt and Shift key and drag another duplicate to one side, rehide the original, and then remove the solid fill colour, change the stroke down to around 4 points, and then from within the Type tool, select the Type on a Path tool, and then just click anywhere along the path of the ellipse, and then you just want to type your desired word. Once you've typed your desired word, select the Direct Selection tool, and as soon as you select the Direct Selection tool you should see a little line somewhere along the path of the ellipse, and what that enables us to do is move the text to where we want to place it. So first, highlight the text and set it to line centre. Select the Direct Selection tool and then select the line and just position that at the top. Once you've added the text, right click and go to Arrange, Bring to Front, and then we can just position the text in the centre of our ribbon design, resize it using the corner anchor points, just adjust the text size down to fit, and we can also just adjust the letter spacing just to spread it out a little bit. Once you've done your first word, repeat the whole process again and add words to the inner sides of the ribbon and the bottom side of the ribbon. Once you've added all the text, you should have something which looks similar to this. All that's left to do now is for you to decorate the centre of the ribbon design, which I will leave to your good imagination. Okay, so there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving me a like and a comment down below. Your support is very welcome. If you want to check out loads more freebies and access to the source files, check out my Patreon link in the description down below. And until next time, I'll see you all in the next one.